Hi, hi, hi.
Hi.
Oh my gosh. Let me press record. Was it already recording?
Yes, I've put it
We're
on.
on. We're ready to
All good.
go.
Okay, let's do this.
What a freaking honor. It's a big day for you, Lauren.
It is a big day. I've had a big day. And it's 10 o'clock for me just now. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. It's great. I'm so like
Amazing.
full of adrenaline.
I'm going to quickly introduce myself because who am I and why do I get the honor of being here and being with you on this incredibly auspicious and beautiful launch day of Upfront? My name is Amie McNee. I am an author and a creative coach and a speaker. And I have had the privilege of reading your work and witnessing you and even meeting you in real life. And it's just like truly, it's such a huge privilege to get to be and hold space for an author on launch day, especially with a book as important as this. So thank you for allowing me to hold space for you and this book, baby. I am so excited for people to get to read this. It is so important. It is so important. And I hope you hear the sincerity in my voice as I say that. And I cannot wait to talk about it today and to talk about. I think I'm particularly interested as someone who's very invested in the creative process as to how this book speaks specifically to us as we create. So I'm really excited to dive into everything. Thank you. Oh, I'm so grateful.
I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for saying yes.
No, literally, it's such a pleasure. I would love to, yeah, just quickly hear how you are on this big launch day. I know putting out a piece of art, a piece of your soul, a creation like this is incredibly vulnerable. There's also just a huge amount of labor that goes behind it. It's late for you right now. How are you honestly feeling today?
I do feel really good. I mean, right now in this moment, I'm like on cloud nine because I'm in conversation with you, and that feels really special for lots of different reasons. And because my community is here, and because I've spent the day, so I just left a voice note in my Hype Squad community. Lots of the Hype Squad folks are here. Give us a +1 in the chat if you're here from the Hype Squad. And I was trying to find the words to say to them how special they have made this day. You know, I've
Mm,
really felt so many people like standing with me, so many
good.
people literally wearing red and taking a photograph and, you know, visibly standing with me as well. People in Australia, people in New Zealand, people all over Europe. And I just feel the togetherness of it, and that feels really, really special because so much of this work can often feel it's quite solo and
It's so, yeah.
it can be quite isolating, you know, as much as I know my community's here, it's very much often just, you know, me sitting in an empty room at my laptop. So
Yeah.
it's been really nice to
This
feel
is
a community.
now so much more than about you. And I think as
Yeah.
a writer, that's such an exciting part of the journey when uh, a very solo adventure you've been on, creating this, making this, and then also prepping to launch her. And now it's kind of not about you anymore at all. It's about us, it's about the readers and how we see ourselves through your lens. And I'm so excited for us all to re-meet ourselves on the pages of this book and to discover more of ourselves on the pages of this book. But it's kind of like your job. I mean, your job isn't done, but you've done a huge amount of your job. And now it's kind of up to us and we get to enjoy it. And so I'm incredibly proud of you and excited for all of us here to get to read this.
Thank you. I mean, that's the bit that I think feels vulnerable and a bit scary because it's like
Yes.
it's not mine anymore, and I'm seeing all these people
Yeah.
with pictures of it, which is the best feeling, and also being like, oh my God, they're going to read it all. Like,
Yeah,
of course
exactly.
that.
There's so much within our control as a creator up until this point, and now it is literally none of your business. And now it is all our business as to how we interpret and integrate and alchemize your incredible words, which is a huge, a huge change from like having all the control now to
Yes.
allowing us to kind of take what's yours and make it ours. So a massive moment today. And yeah, again, it's a really generous act, and I'm so grateful for you. So exciting. All right. I want everyone in the audience to know that you are so welcome to talk, chat, ask questions, and be a community. In my community, the Inspire Collective, there might be a few creatives here from the collective. It's more of a group chat than us two just talking. So please feel free to talk. I'm really good at being in the chat and also being here. So always feel free to mention comments and to put your thoughts in and to allow yourself to be witnessed in this space as we get to discuss this book today. Okay, I've got a few questions here. Shall we dive in, Lauren? Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, cool. All right, so Upfront has been going for 10 years and began with a post-it note, which I fucking just love, on a woman's bathroom mirror at a conference. Can you please tell us about this post-it note? I have post-it notes all around my house. Most of them are unhinged. I can never really read what they say. I've been writing notes to myself recently in the nighttime for me to read in the morning. No idea. Like this morning, I woke up, went downstairs, was like, what's going on? I'm guessing this one, it was a lot clearer and a lot more life-changing than my incoherent post-it note that I saw this morning on my table.
Yeah, I mean, I also have a very diverse set of post-it notes in my house, just everywhere. Some are, I feel like I don't even know when I wrote this, why I wrote this, what this means, and others I'm like, wow, that's really profound.
Whoa.
That on the internet. So the the movement that began on a toilet mirror in a women's toilets is it's a story that I love to tell because it's one of those stories that, looking back the way, it's almost like how could, you couldn't make it up. It sounds almost too straightforward and too simple, but at the time it was very, I just reacted to the situation that I was in. So it was 2016. I was speaking at a conference in Bristol. I was the founder of a service design agency, which was one of the very first of its kind. And so a huge part of my job was to stand on stages, predominantly in design discipline, community spaces, and talk about this new emerging field of service design. And so I spent a lot of time on stages, on podcasts, and I was getting increasingly annoyed, frustrated that I was often the only woman in those spaces. I was always the youngest. I was always the only one with a regional accent. I was always the only one that didn't go to a private school. And I guess at that time, we didn't have language for intersectionality, gender equity, sexism. We weren't having these conversations the way we are now. And I think I was in a place where I had believed the old rule of meritocracy. I believed that story that, you work really hard, the best people get the best opportunities, which of course we now know the truth couldn't be further away.
Yeah.
And so I was at this conference in Bristol. I was the only woman on the whole conference programme. And I remember my friend, who's also called Amie, her and I were sitting up the back, and I was like, this is just, I was swearing and blinding and getting really cross. And I always loved the advice that Tina Ross Eisenberg, the founder of Creative Mornings, she always says, you're allowed to complain 3 times and then you need to try and fix it. And so this day was my kind of reckoning of, I need to do something about this because it's just pissing me off and it's bad energy. And it's like, I'm a designer. My background and my training is product design. So I'm trained to find insights and solve problems and like prototype ideas of how to make things better. And so I made a brave decision to call it out from the stage during my speech. And during my speech, I said, where are all the women? Why am I looking at an audience full of women? Why do I know incredible women and peers in my community, but none of you are on this stage and none of you are on any of the stages because these stages are dominated by middle-aged, middle-class white men who are giving very below average presentations. I didn't say that bit on the stage, but that was the bit that was making me, like, infuriating me. And after my speech, I went to the bathroom and thought I'm just going to put a post-it note on the mirror and say, would you like to be on stage one day? Like, tweet me and tell me. And of course, this was when Twitter was a kind, generous place.
A different place.
So there was lots of people tweeting me, and there was lots of people from the audience kind of waiting to speak to me, both men and women. And I think that was the day where this fire was lit that I don't think will ever go out. It was the day where I realized how complicated this problem is. It is
Yeah.
very systemic, it is intersectional, and it's big. It is a big, messy problem to solve. At that same time, I could hear this insight of people saying, people like me don't go on a stage. Like, that's not a thing that I would ever want to do.
Yeah.
Or I would maybe like to do it, but I wouldn't know where to start. And I had a theory of, okay, why don't I make a way for people to experience being on the stage that's not scary? So, like, in our professional lives, we want to build a skill, we want to learn a new thing, we buy a book, we go on a workshop, we find a mentor. When you want to speak on stage, you can't do that. You need to just go on stage and do it, and it's fucking terrifying because you're like, everybody's looking at me and I've never done this before. So my hypothesis was, I'm going to get people to sit on a big red couch beside me while I give my keynotes, and they can just let their nervous system calm down, realize it's not that scary, and we'll see what happens. And so I sent an email to Matt Desmere, who is acknowledged in my acknowledgements of the book, because he was running this conference called Silicon Beach. And he asked me to keynote, and I messaged him saying, look, I want to do this thing. Can I have a couch on stage? And he was like, you're off your rocker, but sure, you can do what you want. And so we sent an email to all the ticket holders and said, who wants to come on stage with Lauren? Who's got stage fright? Who wants to dip their toe in the water? And we had so many people reply, some people telling me their story of like why they were like, oh my God, I so want to do this. We had to get deck chairs because we couldn't fit them all in. I had my mum make upfront cushion covers so that the couch had
What
like,
an angel.
I know. And we ended up posting those cushions to like all the different couches over the world as it kind of gained traction. So the long story short is that was the first iteration of Upfront. It was never supposed to be a business. It was never supposed to be a movement. It was never meant to be a book. There was no strategy. There was no brand. There was no website. There was just a problem that I wanted to try and do my part to solve, the bit that I had access to. And we did that. I just did that on the side of running my other businesses. When I gave a speech, people would have their couch, and I would reach out to friends like you. I'd be like, Amy, I see you've got a TEDx. Do you want to have the upfront couch on stage with you?
So such a cool idea.
So other people would do it, and then the people on the couch were like, okay, what do we do now? Do you have a workshop or a book or a course? And I was like, no, I don't have any of that. And then when I looked online as to where to send these people, most of them women, many of them from marginalized communities, I was just like, oh my God, there's nothing that I would feel comfortable to recommend. You had the Gary V, Tony Robbins, very American, masculine. And
Yeah.
there is good stuff in there, but it wasn't speaking to what I was looking for. Then you have the kind of body, breath, movement, the kind of more spiritual solutions. That also didn't feel right. It's like I would need something that's starting from a place of this is a systemic problem. Women are not the problem. We need to gather women to teach each other how to navigate this. And so I started to build it. And first it was a workshop, then it was a course. For 5 years it's been a business, and now it's a book. And that's the story of the toilet door.
It's just so beautiful. And like my favorite creations are the ones that were absolutely unplanned and unhinged. And it's just such a, I love it when honestly, the best creations I feel are the ones that were cobbled together because it absolutely had to happen. It's so beautiful. And I love the evolution. I'm really interested in um, the idea of addressing systemic problems and the individual's responsibility to take up space, because I feel like we live in a culture where we're either trying to fix systemic problems or it's all on the individual to do their shit. So it's like either it's not the individual's, no, the individual has no power to make change at all, and we need to do the system, we need to fix what's happened institutionally, or it is only on the individual to change and we're going to ignore the systemic problems. And what I see in your work is this incredible combination of both, which I feel like for some reason people have literally no interest in looking at. And where it's a very black or white, it's either all on you or all on fixing the system. Whereas it's like, why can't we have these conversations together where we look at the personal power we have to take up space and change, but also integrating and understanding that there's the systemic problems here that we need to change as well. And I love how you combine both, because they both need to be looked at if we want to have change for the individual and also for us as communities. Did you find it? I find whenever I try and merge the two, there to be quite a lot of resistance to the idea. And I wonder how you've gone about this journey.
Yeah, I really love this question because it's something that I think about a lot because to me, it's one of the aspects of Upfront that I'm most proud of. And I think,
Mm,
10
you should be.
years when Upfront started, that was quite a radical position to take. I think it's a good thing. It
I think
doesn't
it
feel
still
so.
is. I think it's super
Yeah.
radical.
So that I think, and I think especially in the space field domain of confidence, like even just the word confidence, people immediately put you in the individual box. And our strapline is we're here to change confidence, not women. And even
Mm,
with that, there's still that's not a sexy thing I can put on a billboard and
no, it's
there's
not sexy. That's the problem.
not sexy at all. So, I spend a lot of time thinking about how do we articulate that in a way that invites people in and makes
Mm,
people feel welcome and see themselves in the work, but also makes clear we are walking the line of individual agency and support and power and systemic questioning. Because I think the other thing that's happening, what I see happening in that space now, is it almost sometimes slips too far the other way. So there's a narrative of, well, this is the system. The system is
exactly. So
broken. The
we're
system's
helpless. I
so
can't do anything.
yeah. And I will say, but systems are made of people. Systems are made up of human beings, and we are all human beings who make systems. We make, our family is a system, our community is a system. All of us in this conversation right now in this Zoom call, we're our own little system. And you have, I also think all of us have far, far more agency than we realize
I agree.
to influence and take and have impact on that system. So it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a nuance that does feel really important. And I think the book is really doubling down on that because it's like here are these rules, there's 24. If you take these and practice them, your life will transform. But it's not about your life transforming just so that, Amy's
You're good.
richer and,
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
that. It's like your life will get better, absolutely. But it's also about the collective
Mm,
responsibility as well, like the communities you're part of, the teams you lead, the people you influence, the young people in your life, all the systems that
mm.
you're part of.
100%. I think it is very, very hard for us as individual human beings to understand the accumulative power we have when we individually change. And the fact that individual change leads to systemic change is very hard to understand because there are so many of us and it can feel like we are such a drop in the ocean. But to understand that doing these works and going through the 24 rules and understanding how to integrate your work into their lives is a part of systemic change is very challenging to get your head around. But I think it's incredibly important to understand that we, as you said, we are a system. Like everyone here is a part. We are a little system, and if we can integrate both the understanding that we are individuals with agency and power working within systems, and we don't need to be the victim, and we also don't need to blame ourselves for all the horrible institutional issues in the world. Like if we can have a nuanced and not black and white conversation, I think we become the most powerful versions of ourselves. And I'm so grateful that your work does that.
Thank you.
So cool. I think I wanted to ask this question on the back of it because I feel like it's a part of that black and white, nuanced, tricky subject, which is that the problem is, this is what you say that the problem isn't that women lack confidence, it's that confident women are not rewarded, which again is not a sexy thing to say, because you're not saying if you're confident then you're going to change everything, and if you just do this then your life will, and then everything will change, and then we're going to take over the world. It's not that simple. And it's saying that, you know, you have individual power, but we're still working with a system that isn't rewarding us correctly. But how do you grip people with that? Because it's very hard to sell and to impact people with nuanced conversation, which is why I'm just so fucking grateful for what you do, because it's nuanced and we need it.
Yeah, and I feel really grateful to you for seeing that, because I
To
think
see it.
this is not a conversation that I often have. You know, people don't ask me these questions, so I'm also really grateful that you know that's where that's what's making you curious. And you're right, there is, so we have one of the ways we articulate, so we have we're here to change confidence, not women. Something else that came out of that is this mantra of may our confidence upset them. So this is the idea that if you are going to choose to be confident in this world, you will upset people. Like that, there's a whole chapter in the book around that. And for some people in the room who have gone through the bond and have been in the upfront community for a while, and I'd love to hear from you in the chat, that almost becomes like quite an energizing idea that gives you motivation. And
Yeah.
in those moments where people get upset, even though it is difficult, painful, uncomfortable, you have the knowledge to say, I can see what's happening here. This is actually not about me. It's about their discomfort with my boundary or with my direct communication or whatever that might look like.
Mm.
But for some people, like recently we had a stall at a conference, and SJ, who's here tonight, was there with me. And we had our tote bags and the mugs and all the things. May our confidence upset them, and badges. And a few people were saying to her, I don't want to upset anybody. And who are we going to upset? You know, it was a moment of reflection for us, because when you do this work every day,
Of course, it becomes so natural.
yeah, you forget that for many, many, many people, that's a horrible idea. Why would you want to? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Why would I wear a bag saying I'm going to upset somebody? And so it opened up this conversation of like, how do we meet people where they are? And also,
Mm.
you know, we are a business, so it's like you also have to make the decision of, you can't support every single person at every single stage of
No, we
the
can't.
journey. Um, so that's that's something that, you know, I think is like an ongoing point of reflection. And the bit that feels interesting in that for me at this time is women's place in that, in terms of women's relationship with other women. Because the internalized misogyny piece of that conversation is the really juicy, spicy bit that nobody wants to talk about.
And immediately I'm like, let's go.
Yes.
It's again, like it is just the most nuanced. It's why it needed to be a book, because this isn't a nice slogan and it requires
Oh, I
unpacking,
need to
and
write that down. Needed to
No,
be.
it isn't. It isn't a nice slogan. This isn't just, a tote bag quote. The tote bag quote requires you literally to unpack a load of shit. Like it requires you to have an incredible sit down with yourself. And you're not just looking at your people pleasing issues, you're looking at your internalized misogyny, you're looking at, the ways that you're complicit within an institution that tries to stop you from taking up space. Like there is so much that comes with a very simple phrase and a very simple idea. And again, that is why we need these rules. It's why we need your voice, because it just isn't as it isn't as sexy as it seems.
No, it's really not. And actually, something that I was talking to my friend Lorna about this week, who's also here, was the notion of like, how do I convey to the people in this room, especially to the people in the hype squad, to the women in my team, to the women on our advisory council, like how brave and courageous you are for stepping into this conversation and saying, I want to have these conversations. I want
Mm,
to look at this stuff. I'm okay with the discomfort that will come with that, because
yeah,
there are thousands of people out there who even see the word confidence and think no, because
I know.
because
Yeah,
it's too hard and
yeah.
it's too much. And I don't say that to criticize those people, because I also have huge empathy
No, of
and
course. Yeah,
understanding for why that reaction can be the way it is. But I've been thinking about what can I do to really make all of the women here in this space and here in the community really acknowledge that brilliant part of themselves, because I think I feel called to do that more. It's like it feels
yeah.
really important that we say like, I'm really glad that you decided to come into this work and to come here and to buy the ticket. And often not only just to come, but to pay to come,
Yeah, to invest,
to
to
buy
invest.
to invest.
Yeah.
Like, that's even more significant. And I just think it's amazing.
I think so many of us are after a quick fix, a good dopamine hit, and to come into this work is to maybe pay money, but to pay, it comes at cost. This
Mhm.
isn't just a nice little addition to our personality that makes us, extra employable, or maybe you'll get a raise, or like you'll become more sexy. It's like this just isn't a simple plus to our lives, because it comes at a cost. And if I think about what I'm navigating at the moment, as a writer, and when I think about the confidence and the boundaries and articulating what it is I want, comes at a huge fucking cost. It comes at a financial cost to me. It comes at me, at a professional cost for me at the moment. And how brave and how brave we all are to stand in that and to give up what we give up in the name of like our integrity and who we are and our power. And I agree. Like I think it's super important. And your work is not only to explain this, but to acknowledge how fucking brave we all are for for giving up what we have to give up in order to be, confident women.
Mm.
So important, such important work. So exciting, Lauren. I went a reading.
Okay.
Where are you going to take us today? Do you know what you're doing with us?
I do. I made my little.
Oh my gosh.
I
Are
tried
we
to.
allowed to, am I allowed to interrupt and ask questions?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, you may.
I'm really happy not to, but I know I'm going to have something to ask you.
Yes. So I'm going to read a little bit from the first chapter and then also
Great.
introduce the upfront moment at the end. So each chapter starts with an old rule and a new rule. So
Yeah,
you're
my favorite part.
unlearning, relearning, and then the upfront moment is, okay, how are you going to actually execute this and put it into practice? So
Beautiful.
this is chapter one. You were always teachable. The old rule: confidence is something you're born with. The new rule: confidence is a skill you practice. Maybe she's born with it. I was 5 years old. Maybelline had just launched their iconic "Maybe she's born with it, maybe it's Maybelline" campaign. Now, I'm no advertising exec, but the reason that this campaign became such a significant part of pop culture isn't because the word maybe is very close to Maybelline. It's that women are taught that the key attributes and skills that fuel confidence, progress, and power are innate. You're taught that confidence is a natural gift bestowed upon the lucky few, and there's no hope for the rest of us unless you buy their mascara, of course. So you tell yourself every damn day that you were not born with it. You concede to moving through this world without actively learning confidence. This is exceptionally good news for the status quo, because for as long as you think that confidence is unteachable and unlearnable, you will stay exactly where you are, knowing that you are capable of so much more and not knowing where or how to begin. This book is where you begin. Without confidence, you are far less likely to challenge authority, to speak up against injustice, be wealthy, be in a position of authority, and be taken seriously. Psychologist Albert Bandura calls it self-efficacy, and the research is really clear. People who believe they can do something are far more likely to set bold goals and keep going when it gets hard and grab the opportunities that lead to power and wealth and influence. Without confidence, you leave money and power and opportunities on the table. Researchers call it the confidence pay penalty, and it's costing women like you thousands over your lifetime. How would your daily life change if confidence was not a fixed trait, but instead something you could learn? How would our world change if every single woman in this world learned confidence? We are going to find out together, me and you, because confidence is a skill that you can learn, and this truth changes everything.
Mm. It is so personal and so political.
Mm.
And it is both in such a beautiful and coherent way. And the more people who can understand that, it's so exciting. It is so personal and it is so political. It is so about the individual and it is so about the community. And I'm just so grateful. Continue.
So I'm going to skip forward to the upfront moment and give you a question to think about. What does your, hold on, maybe I do the first one. What were you taught about confidence as you were growing up? What are the inherited stories you've absorbed about who gets to be confident, what confidence looks like, and what it means if you have it or you don't have it? So you might want to think about, what did the adults around you model when you were growing up? Were you praised more for being quiet or for being louder? Was confidence seen as admirable or as arrogance? Were boys and girls encouraged differently in your world? What did school, culture, media, or religion teach you about confidence? What were you told about bragging, boldness, or ambition? Did anyone ever call you too much or not
Mm.
enough? Whose confidence were you taught to fear, envy, admire, or shrink from? I want you to write it all down. The big moments, the throwaway comments, the family mantras, the classroom rules, because these are the roots of your confidence story, and this is where you start, with seeing them clearly and honestly so that you can choose what to carry forward and what to leave
Mm.
behind.
Mm. I mean, this is such an invitation for us to, if anyone wants to write this down, share it, maybe we give ourselves a few minutes to just sit with that and I might answer
Yeah,
as we do that.
please do. Yeah.
Yeah. I went to a dance class last week for the first time since I was maybe 13 and I went on my own and it's dance hall, so like super sexy, super hip driven, like and super difficult. And I was not embarrassed. And I was so bad, Lauren. And I was so bad. And I was so delighted. And even at the end when they like split us up into small groups and we had to show everyone, and I literally stood still because I got confused and didn't lost those steps, and I was standing still in this like group of people doing all the dance moves, and I was just like, I can't tell you, it was a real moment for me where I was like, I am completely changed.
Yeah.
And I was a deeply embarrassed
Mhm.
and cringy person for most of my life. And I felt deeply ashamed of myself for most of my life, for taking up too much space, for not getting it, for being bad. And to see that change was just such a moment for me. And like I just know I could feel like the inner teenager in me was like looking at me, being like, you should be so upset with yourself. And I just wasn't. I was so delighted at myself. And I looked at myself in the mirror, literally standing there, like wiggling my hips a tiny bit. Like, and I was like, you are so sweet. And you are trying, and you're trying publicly. And I am literally in awe of you. And this is what your work is doing, and it is changing my inherited stories, which is, it is so embarrassing to be seen trying. It is so embarrassing to be seen wanting to do something that you're not good at. They were I had taken those inherited stories and I had allowed myself to just be free, and it was such a potent moment for me, and I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, I love it. I'm so proud of you. It's such a,
Thank you.
I can see the picture you painted. I mean, I can share a story because I was actually talking about it today with my partner of something that, a story that your work has transformed for me, which is my shame around being a person who loves to be on stage. And I love attention.
I love
I
attention.
don't think I've ever said that in front of people. I love attention.
Me too, baby.
I think you've written about that, spoken about it on your podcast, and I heard you saying, "I fucking love attention. I fucking love attention. I want loads of attention." And I was literally had like full body because I have felt so ashamed my
Mm.
whole life, and I'm still, that's it's not wrapped up in
It's
a.
an ongoing process.
I felt so ashamed for enjoying attention and wanting to be on stage and wanting to take up space, liking having my photograph taken. Like these things are like so not acceptable for women to
Yeah,
say. It's like the story is you're shy, you're embarrassed, you're forcing yourself to do it. Oh, do I really need to,
yeah.
and
Oh, I hate it.
yeah. And so that has been really powerful for me because it's like I know that the reason why I feel so much energy around it is because it's my gift. It's because
Yes.
it's the thing that I'm good at. It's
You're
the,
on purpose.
yes.
Mm. I am so glad that that feels transformative to you, because it was, when I said it out loud, I mean, fuck, shame just evaporates when you allow yourself to be seen
Mhm.
publicly claiming something. I love attention. And as a woman, as you said, like that is so deeply taboo.
Mhm.
And I love to be witnessed and seen. And I think as creative people, like we want to be seen, we want to be understood, we want to be, we want to be witnessed. And there are wounds within us that are saying that is so deeply inappropriate,
Yep.
and that makes you a very bad person. And to rewrite that story, I think it's one of the more controversial ones to rewrite. I think I still see today a lot of people who really want to slap that one down. Oh, I create just for myself. Just, I don't think about the audience. I think about the audience all the time. I want to please you, and I want you to delight in what I'm making, and I want you to look at me. And to reclaim that narrative is just, it is so taboo and so revolutionary. And I think it's part of your work in this. This is what we're talking about with confidence, like to allow yourself to give yourself permission to have these desires. So beautiful. Yeah. I'm glad that both of us right now are on stage getting the attention we need and
Yes.
deserve. I would love to invite any Q&A questions
Yes.
from the audiences here. Um, Anything that's on your heart, anything that you're currently navigating. And when did any of you go to a dance class and move incredibly poorly? I literally woke up the morning after my dance class and I bruising, like hickeys all around my hips. And I had obviously never moved my body in this way before, that I literally bruised myself. But again, I felt like they were like little evidences of me doing something new and scary. And I was very proud of myself.
Yeah, would love to hear from folks in the room. Another question could be like, what's the old rule
Yeah.
that you're burning down, or what is the new rule that you're taking with you? And it might be one of the 24 rules in the book, or it might be a rule that has come up for you in this conversation.
Yeah. I
So,
wouldn't mind actually talking about that kind of visibility while we wait for questions to come in. And like, because as creators, I think there is that tension between really wanting to be seen and also like absolutely not wanting to be seen, like how we sit in that. Because confidence doesn't mean like you're always wanting to, I don't want to live on stage. I don't want to live being witnessed, you know? And how do you balance that? Like how do we practice being visible and still protecting ourselves?
thanks. Josephine's put the questions in the chat for us. Thank you.
Yeah. Catherine says, I did karaoke at a work Christmas party. I've never done karaoke before, and I did it in front of colleagues. They really enjoyed it. I got such a buzz. I'm not nearly front and center visible. So beautiful, Catherine. I wonder how did it feel? Like, did you feel proud? Like, such a beautiful story. And Lauren says, I went to a tap class in Ruthven Lane in Glasgow in my 20s. I was so bad. I felt like a baby elephant bouncing across the room, and I still laugh so hard about it. We take ourselves so seriously. And I think it's so beautiful to just like put aside that and like allow yourself to not take yourself seriously at all and to play. Like life doesn't need to be yeah, so down the line all the time.
I buzzed for
Catherine says it
ages.
gave me a lot of confidence at work. How interesting that it translates like that.
Yeah,
Jamie
my
says, I think,
oh
oh,
sorry.
sorry. Lauren, you go.
Yeah, my dance class equivalent is 2 weeks ago now. I applied for Swedish Pop Idol.
I'm so, I am so genuinely delighted by this.
I also, the way I wish I'd filmed this reaction, the way people react is like my favorite part of the whole situation because even people who know me well, they're like, I'm sorry, what? I'm like,
I'm,
it's just
to
so,
me, it rang incredibly true. It was like, that made a lot of sense.
yes. But it was so interesting. And because the main thing that was happening for me was I kept trying to make it a joke and like laugh and make it silly and be like, oh, and I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing that? Like,
That's the other side of that, like the other side of that story of like we take everything too seriously, but also we're allowed to take things seriously.
yes. So I was trying to walk this line of like, this is a serious thing and it's making me feel a bit sick in a kind of healthy, stretchy way. But also like I'm also holding it lightly at the same
Yes.
time. It's like
What a balance.
and it was really interesting and I'm so proud of myself for doing it. And I just think that I will dine out on that story
Of
for
course you will.
many years. And I know that folks are thinking, did you get through it or not? And the answer is they did not tell us, which is very upsetting because I like immediate feedback. But they said, um, if we don't hear back by the end of April, then we should try again next year.
We've got a long time to wait for this news.
Yes.
I'm in awe of that. I always say creators have to have a balance between giving a lot of fucks and giving no fucks at all. And it is that like balance between like you're allowed to take this seriously, but also to hold things lightly and to yeah, not allow yourself to be playful and have that light energy. And that's a strange, but I think that is a lot of what confidence is. It's like that strange balance. And
Mhm.
I find it hard to strike like every day.
And it's also choosing, I obviously this is my job and it's what I spend my days working on and thinking about. So when that opportunity presented itself, it's like I know that I'm going to a place where my confidence is low, is going to build
It's
me new confidence muscles in places that I don't have it currently have any. That's the only way that you can get them.
I think that's what I noticed and why I decided to go to this dance class is like, especially when you are good at what you do, like you can just keep doing the same thing that you're good at over and over again. And there's no room to challenge yourself and to push yourself beyond your like your normal expectations of yourself. And so allowing yourself to be in these uncomfortable situations seems like such an important part of like how we develop our confidence.
I'm
Yeah.
conscious of our time. I mean, I feel like
Yes.
we could talk to you forever, but I know that.
Some beautiful stories coming through today. Thank you guys. There's a lot of dances happening here. I love this idea that we're all out
Yeah.
here being incredibly bad at dancing. Thank you, Lauren. I'm so grateful. I feel like I asked you the questions I really wanted to ask, but I'm incredibly like I could talk to you for so long, and I'm so excited for everybody to have this book baby and for them to, yeah, it's time now for us to see ourselves through your work. And what you did have done is so incredibly generous. It is going to help people in such intimate ways, but also it is going to help us structurally, politically, and communally. And I hope you understand the impact of that work. It is actually incredibly hard to understand the impact when you do something like this, Lauren. I know that. But I just want to remind you that what you've done has put the world in a better direction, and we really need better directions right now. So I'm incredibly fucking thankful for you, and I'm incredibly excited for everybody on this call.
Thank you so, so much. It means the world.
What do we need to say? Anything at the end now to make sure everyone's got a copy of this book? Where how can we?
Yeah, like, well, I think Josephine has got the link to put in the chat. If you have not already got your book, please buy your book. Folks say Alison Sage picked up her copy today. Also, if you've come over from Amy's community, I would love you to follow me on Instagram and we can stay connected. Obviously, all the folks here, make sure you follow Amy, check out her incredible book, which we should have a whole other part two on. We Need Your Art.
The
Um,
book, their books live so beautifully next to each other. They need each other almost, you know.
yeah.
We Need Your Art like just sits right next to Upfront, and don't read one without the other.
You're gonna make me cry now. Okay.
Go sleep. You've had a massive day. You need bed.
I mean,
You've done your
I feel
work.
like am I ever going to sleep tonight? I feel
Yeah,
like
you might
I'm
need a little
just,
meditation or something there.
yeah. But
But
this
go to
is
sleep knowing that your book baby is doing the work for you now. That's something that really soothed me as an author is like you've done so much work and now let your book baby go do your work for you. And she's going to go out there and change lives. And I'm going to talk about it with people, and people in this chat are going to talk about it with other people. And so as you sleep, your book baby is doing the work for you so you can rest.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here, guys.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Lots and lots of love.
Bye.
Bye.